Okay, now we've got all sides cut in. Both sides, as you can see, our feathers are cut in. Now we're going to do a little cleanup using this diamond that we've used before. It's this long teardrop diamond. Clean up a little bit of this area right here to get some of these fuzzies off. Clean up around the feathers. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do it to both sides and get it clean and smooth. Again, we start at the bottom just like we did. We started out cutting the feathers in. We just use this to clean up any of the marks left from the cutter when we cut those in with the stone. We clean up right around these where the feathers join in to each other, the coverts. It's important when you cut these in, and notice I don't have a real deep stair step in here. I just wanted to show the slight impression of where the feathers are layered. You don't need to, it doesn't have to be real deep grooves and valleys for this. So what we'll do now is we'll continue on and we'll do the other side as well. And we'll get that done, and then when we come back we're going to lay in the contours of the feather groups on the breast. Okay, now we've got all the sides cleaned up, smooth. There's a few little fuzzies, as you can see, in some of these areas along here. What I'm going to use, I said you can use a soft toothbrush, and I keep one here, just a toothbrush that's a nice soft one, and I just cut the handle off. It's real short, and so what I can do is I just take it and brush it over that area. It kind of takes off some of that dusty area that accumulates under there, and then the little fuzzies that you saw. Do the same thing to the tail. Clean it off. So now it's pretty much clean. So what we're going to do next is, a lot of your birds have what they call feather contours. And it's actually just how feathers clump in different areas. And this is just one example I've shown here of, you see where the bib is right here. This is just one area of how you can lay out these particular feather tracks, as we call them, or feather groups. That's just one area. We don't have to do it this way. If I draw it on here, it's probably not going to be exactly what's on here. This is just to give you an idea of how this works. Now what we do have to lay in is on the bottom of the bird, right about, in this position, right about here, is what we call the vent area. And what happens is you tend to have, if we put this center line back in, let me show you real quick. We put this center line in, just like so. Have an area where it comes off the burr, it rolls out like this. It's called like the vent area, and they'll roll. They just make little round circles like that. They can be various sizes. This is to give you an idea of what it looks like. But this is, the legs will usually fall right up in here somewhere, like so, but we have to relieve all of this and show that area in here. I just drew this to show you how that's going to look. The vent area, this vent area is a little bit wider. It comes up off of here. It tends to run something like so, and you do the same process of this one. Like that. Got it just. This is an area you want to try to keep it as symmetrical as you can. I need to come off a little bit wider. Like that. So what we'll be doing is I will be using a ball to relieve some of this in here. I showed you the ball earlier in the equipment list. Now what you can do is draw on these feather tracks. Now they don't have to be exactly like you see them in the drawing. They can be different. I mean, I vary them up from time to time. For instance, we could start a separation area back from the wing to the neck. Draw a line like that. And then we could do the same thing over on the other side. There's a separation right there. And then what I could do is you could draw an area that comes down like this into the center. It makes like a V, like a little vest, as you can see there. And you could come off of that with various lines. I could make a line that comes off like this. Oops. Like that. You could vary the other one the same way. Pull one like that. And you could have another one that comes. There's no rhyme or reason to these. I mean, there's no certain way to lay these out. It's just whatever looks pleasing to you and looks pleasing on the bird. So you can, all of these areas that I put in here, I can go in and relieve these areas with a ball and create a slight depression and then roll it out and make it very subtle. And what happens is that each one of these little groups, they look like muscle groups, if you want to call them anything else. Then we draw in all the feathers, and we relieve all the feathers that are in this group right here. As you can see here, these feathers have been drawn in these various groups that we see here. Now the tail feathers, the feathers we could call them the vent feathers on the top and the bottom of the lower covert feathers, they're not rounded like you see on the breast feathers. They tend to be a little bit more long, spear-shaped, and they'll go in. When I draw this in, I'll show you. I'll just give you an example of what they look like real quick. They'll look more like that, rather than being rounded like this. They're spear-shaped, and they can take on any form. As thickness or length or whatever, it just varies. That's how they would look. That flows over from the bottom up to the top. They're all the same way. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and relieve with a ball. I'm going to go cut all of these tracks in, and then we're going to smooth them out and make them look real subtle. And after we're done with that, then we'll start laying in feathers within these groups, as well as on the cape and the neck and the bib, ear coverts, and the top of the head. So what we'll do now is we'll get the ball out. Let me just erase these areas where I'm showing you, and we will do those areas like that. Now let me find the ball we were using. It is just simply, this happens to be a ruby ball. It's probably about an 1/8 inch. You can use a little bigger, it doesn't matter. You could also use something, ruby makes a pear-shaped head that looks like this, a ruby carver, and it has a rounded end. Basically you can use it, or you can use the ball. Either one is perfectly okay to use. I've used them both. Doesn't matter which one. If you have one of these, use it. If you have one of these, you can use it. I'll show you how the pear one works too. This wasn't in the original equipment list. I just wanted to show you that this is what you could use if you had it. You don't have to have that, but it will make a nice groove. And I'll show you here. I'll start with this one on this top side. You just go right down the middle of the line, starting very shallow, of course, where the bib and the ear coverts start. I just very lightly make a groove. And this ruby is very aggressive, so you got to be careful. Don't go too deep, too wide, too fast. And as you get to another area of feathers, you just fan it out real shallow. As you see, it made a nice trough using that. The ball works pretty much the same way. This is a ruby ball, it's aggressive as well. You can do the same thing. On this little part of his vest here, I call it the vest in the front, you do the same thing. And you can just follow those lines right down like that. And you'll notice there's not much difference between the groove that I made with the ball and the groove that I made with that pear-shaped ruby. So it's the same thing. So you could use either one of those. So we'll go ahead and start cutting these in. Where I come across one line, I come down the channel, not cutting it again, but on to the next one like this, so that it shows the transition from one line to another. Now we have all this defined. Now where this vent area and all this, we have to clean all of this off back this way. So I'm going to take that round nose diamond and clean this off first. Get that cleaned off all for the undertail coverts and upper tail coverts. So we'll take this ball off. We're done with the ball. Cut all those grooves in. Then we'll go with the round nose diamond that I have, and we will clean up this area right around in here, all on this back side. It has to be pulled down and blended into the body. So we'll do that right now. We'll get rid of all these high spots. Make sure that it blends out right back off into the body. Clean that up as we go. See how we're feathering that back into the body here, and we're leaving a high depression up here if you want this to show. All of these areas will be smoothed over and rounded out and made real subtle. Got a little area right here. Now as you can see, we've cleaned all this up right here. It's blended off into the body. Now what we'll do is we'll take this smooth ruby that we've used before, and we'll clean up these grooves and make them a little bit more subtle. So we'll change over to that. And what we'll do is we'll just take the edge of it off like so. We're not trying to get rid of our little groove, but we want to just smooth those edges off. And so we have a slight roll, smooth, subtle roll in here. And then we come over here to the back side of it. And we do the same thing. Like so. That out. And we do the other part of the vent.